Our goal after arriving in Panama in early January was to get Spirit XL to a stage where she could operate independently of marinas. We'd spent the 3 months prior in Costa Rica in a marina and had had enough of them. Getting the final bits we needed while in Costa Rica was definitely out of the question. With import costs as high as 100% and delays a normal occurrence, we decided to leave the big ticket items until we got to Panama, where it was far easier and cheaper to import them from the US. The main items that we were yet to order and install were the Victron 3000 watt inverter, a water maker, Seawater Pro, 70 gallons per hour that runs on 24 volt. A dinghy. We were open to what type of tender we had. We just wanted a hard bottom inflatable. We were definitely opting more towards the AB as we'd had them before, and our old tender lasted us more than 10 years, and when we sold the old Spirit it was still going strong. We needed to get a new hydraulic ram for the autopilot as the shaft on the old ram had pitted. We wanted to order a Starlink and fit it on board so that we had internet while crossing. We needed to fit 2 new second-hand sails that we'd ordered from New Zealand and had shipped to Panama. Some of the main jobs we still had to carry out were things such as finally fitting the solar panels to the decks. This is something that took a little bit of thought. Still isn't the perfect fit, and it's not, the panels will be an evolution.
Look at that. These little aluminium feet made up, drilled an M8 hole in it. We ground the ground back to the fiberglass, and we put 5200 under all the feet to hold them. And yeah, they are super solid. They're not going anywhere. I'd say the worst thing that could happen is we could have a wave break on top, but they have the support in the middle of the hatch underneath. We've put them just a couple of mils above the hatch, so if a wave hits from above, they will have the support of the hatch. But maybe if we get a breaking wave on the side, we might get something underneath that pops it out the top. But I'd say the feet and the frame will stay here. We may just break a glass, but anyway, we'll see. We'll just have to sail to the conditions. If we get some pretty horrendous stuff, we'll bear away and run with it. But I think they'll be really good there. I think they'll be really good. They're also got less shading out here, really wide. I've run the wires in under the nets, all along the edge of the net, and then the wires run along here, and then 2 through holes, little holes down there. But super happy with the way they've come up. You can see if any waves come over the front, the way the feet are running fore and aft, the wave should just go straight through underneath and above. And then if we need to get into the hatches below, we just undo the wing nuts. There's 4 wing nuts on these 4 feet, and then on this one we've put a nylock on the inside, and this is like a hinge. So if we want to get into the hatch, we just undo the 4 wing nuts and we lift it up. We can access the hatch underneath. And then the same with the aft one. 4 wing nuts, and then the forward edge there is done like a hinge, so it can hinge up and we can access the hatch underneath. So yeah, super stoked. I think it looks awesome. Very minimal, clean.
We needed to remove the nets. We wanted to re-stitch the nets all around the borders because the stitching was deteriorating and the nets were falling apart. We figured if we could get them stitched, they'd get us all the way home. After having them stitched, obviously, we needed to re-lash all the nets, which is quite a big job and took us a couple of days, but definitely well worthwhile, because now we don't have saggy old nets. We've got really nice, tight and very secure nets to walk on, which is makes a huge difference when offshore and at sea. And we needed to load on board the 80 metres of G43 10mm chain that we'd ordered. Needed to rewire or really just neaten up the 12 and 24 volt board, the electrical panel, to make it a little bit more common sense and easier for people to use, and just to neaten up the wiring. We also wanted to remove and check the rudder. We wanted to remove it totally from the boat, and I wanted to visually inspect the rudder stock and to see the condition of the bearings and the rudder stock before we crossed. As we weren't hauling the boat, this is something that was definitely necessary to do while in the water, and we're lucky because we've got a boat where we can do it. We wanted to simplify the running rigging, so I had to go around and just make sure everything was of the correct length, and then cut and change a lot of the running rigging just to make things a little bit easier. We found on the way down from Costa Rica we had excessive tails to sheets and halyards in the cockpit, which just made the cockpit a working mess, and so why have 100 foot on the halyard tail when you don't need it. We wanted to scrub the hull to make sure that we didn't get excessive growth while we sat in the marina in Panama for a couple of months. And we wanted to have the fridge compressor replaced. As a fridge, we noticed the fridge had not been consistently holding temperature, so we wanted to replace the compressor and fit a new thermostat. We needed to stitch in a new tack. After we'd hoisted the mainsail, we discovered that the luff was a touch too long on the new second-hand main, so we needed to stitch in a new tack. We tried to borrow a friend's sailrite, but it just wasn't good enough to get through the excessive amount of sail material in that area of the sail, so I ended up having to drill it and spent 2 days stitching on a webbing tack. We needed to organise the onboard tender stowage, so we bought the new tender and we had an outboard, but where to stow it. So we did what we did on the old Spirit, and we used 2 strops with ratchet straps, and we made virtually like 4.5 beams that go between the 2 arcas and act like beams themselves, but fore and aft, and then the tender sits and gets strapped down to them. We needed to also service blocks and winches. We needed to source and fit a portable freezer, and we needed to get rid of the old stove, which only had one very rusty and unreliable burner, and we needed to fit a new stove. Now, I know everyone's opinion on gas on board boats is very negative. I've grown up on boats all my life, over 40 years living on boats. And gas is fantastic to me. You just need to have it installed properly, and you need to understand the dangers. We're very lucky on board Spirit XL because the stove and the gas bottle are stored probably about 1 metre apart. So when you use the stove, you open the gas bottle, you turn it on at the valve, and when you've finished with the stove, you turn the gas off at the gas bottle. Anyway, so all of this was made a lot easier when we were joined by Sam for 5 weeks in Panama. Sam had kindly offered to come and help us, and was also looking to buy a Trimaran, a Hammerhead 54, the same as Spirit XL. We had 2 months until the start of March to get Spirit sorted and finally break free of the marinas. Come March, our plan was to head out and to cruise the Marquises Islands, which are roughly 40 nautical miles off Panama City. The 3-week cruise around the Marquises would give us the time and chance to test the changes and the additions we'd made, and thus give us the confidence in the boat and her systems to make our final departure across the Pacific towards French Polynesia in April. 3 very close friends had offered their services and would join us for the cruise around the Marquises, and having more people aboard would allow us to stress Spirit XL and her systems and to pinpoint any weaknesses or faults that we had. As you can imagine, those 3 weeks have been incredible. We've finally broken free of marinas, and Spirit's presently being tested with 5 people on board cruising the Marquises. And stay tuned for our next update and the test results from the Marquises cruise and adventures. All the best to everyone.